Yes.
As well. I bet it was the other thing that
basically then it's all this stuff George actually comes.
It's not like George is like nobody knows it.
Two teams should be playing that scene.
That's a little bit.
But apart from that, national council. Sometimes you get a bit lucky for playing a neutral.
Yeah, that's definitely place. A couple of games. How you got new building team there?
Shared medical facilities, so like if you're all the seniors want to do injuries across the regions, all the players will be out.
Being carried, it takes the pressure off.
Yeah, but
I am good.
it's always
They can't afford. Really have to play and lose a lot.
Yeah.
I think it was a big state practice.
I imagine Colin was with different ones to the last campaign.
Yes.
They would only get their budgets across the region. Some good for some reason.
Yeah. Trying to do as well.
Yeah.
Box to box, some shoots.
Defensive and defensive.
Yeah, we're made.
Just in all the ways.
Look, Hungary was really good.
Yeah.
It's
got good music. The man with the goals you can see is like something like Newport scores. The corner Newport stuff. That's what you also
on a penalty.
Yeah.
Red card. Last year was two.
As long as the age group is up. Yeah, last year was the that's once in a generation.
Yeah.
We'll get that close to money
left. No.
Whatever you do, not we go without fail. Or build like a smaller version.
The good thing is, like, this group will be together for this campaign on the next.
I think it's going to change the structure a bit now. Maybe the 17s, 18s, 19s. So there's an 18s now, which is in the all the rugby is down there.
Okay.
They'll play UEFA games, so they play the
yeah.
I mean, I know it's on a bit of a... And we're showing that the coaches working there, so like, there was an 18s version, and now he's gone back to the sections. What he's going to do is going to be with that back, and send me the, so they'll stay with their teams, rather than go to an in-manager every day.
Just manage just training with me.
Managers go around the cycle with it.
They've had a new gym, but
But like, there's no like plunge pools, there's no like...
So like,
we'll take the players have got down the centre, so it's people with the 18s and 19s.
And then when they go on,
probably some
back
of
to 17.
Craig Lang probably take the 17s and 18s, one of which is the 18s. John Gray's involved with these all.
Yes, and
fight for the Euros.
Would you say?
So 5 games in it.
Yeah, she sort of fumbled. Well, we haven't had one yet. Last one was against Ireland, was it? Didn't win any of the Nations League.
Well,
No. Drew against Sweden twice. And lost the other 4.
so 3 minutes to Denmark.
Close both games, all games, apart from the last one. We got absolutely hammered.
The thing is, 3 games at the Euros, the Italy game. Safia's brother. Everyone just started watching winning team because we quite the whole team was seeing as they win.
I need a few information for everyone.
Not really nice work. I feel like we'd like something from Australia.
This
Close.
spot we find ourselves in.
Just for Jess.
Because in the draw for the next Nations League is after this.
Nations League and the World Cup.
I thought I'd come and help you if you
From
want.
Nations League,
I don't want
actors,
to.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
we're back in League.
It's all about doing it. The men's of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw some good. I saw that parts for League. No thanks. There's a nicer way to go on.
Thank you.
Hiya, bore da, croeso pawb. Welcome everyone to the first women's team press conference in these new facilities. So we have about sort of 20 minutes, half hour really. So quite relaxed, quite informal. So Dab, do you want to go first?
Great. Nice to see you, Rhian. Hope you're well. There's only one place to start. I suppose the huge news this week about Jess's international retirement. I know we've spoken about her so many times, but can you even begin to sum up her contribution to not just Welsh football, but world football, I suppose?
I don't think it can be summed up, and I think that's what we're all realizing and recognizing, that she is a generational player that has given everything for the country. It's obvious. I think she's being recognized worldwide, which is appropriate for how much she's loved playing for Wales and how much she's given to do that. But it can't be summed up. She's a player that we'll miss hugely, but I'm glad we've got one more game with her in the squad.
How was that conversation with Jess when she told you she was finally calling it a day?
Yeah, we had lots of conversations. It's such a private moment when someone makes that final decision, and she's being really good about it. She hasn't had any knee-jerk moments. She's taken her time. She's had lots of conversations with loved ones, and then when she was ready, it was very clear for her. And so I mean, I just get to sit in the chair in that moment when she does decide to retire, which is a privilege for me to be able to do that. But also just watching a player, and we do need to recognize Kayleigh Barton as well. The two of them will be retiring on the day. These two women who've given so much, and to sit there on the other end of the phone when they make that decision, it's not easy to hear, but also I'm hugely appreciative of everything they've done.
We've seen Kayleigh's already made the move into coaching. I know Jess has many options. She's done coaching badges. She's talked about going into politics. Where do you see her future?
The world is her oyster. Who am I to say anything to what Jess wants to do? And I think that is one of the scary moments at the end of this footballing career, when the world is in front of you, and it's something I wouldn't want to pigeonhole. She really needs to take her time, and whatever she does, I'm sure she'll do incredibly well with it.
How was it for you when you came to retire from playing?
There's no good time to retire. And I tell the players that you either get it right and you only recognize that you got it right a few years down the road because you feel like you still have something else to give, or you get it wrong and you're injured, or a coach needs to make the decision for you, which is painful and you feel cheated. So it's just got to be something that feels right, and that you have a conversation with your loved ones and they gather around you for it. But it's not a nice time at all. It's quite lonely as well.
Do you have any advice for Jess to cope with that, or is it something that you have to, although you have the support of your friends and family and colleagues, is it something you have to kind of do on your own to some degree?
Yeah, you do have to do it on your own. Unless, and this is what I mean, when you get it wrong, a coach has a conversation with you and starts saying like, well, your playing time is going to change and you're going to have a different role. And a lot of players are okay with that. And that is a wonderful thing. You don't get playing again. That part of your life is over. And so it has to be a personal decision. But it is always tough when a coach has to do it. And so to watch Kayleigh and Jess leave at a time where, as you can see, with quite an injured roster, it'd be very nice to have them back. But that is the reality of football.
When you spoke last month, I think it was during the Wales-Canada men's game, you suggested that you're expecting players to retire. We've had Kayleigh and Jess announce. Are you still expecting more over the next few months?
No, but I wouldn't be surprised in the next year and a half, 2 years, we have a few more. But that is, again, I can speak as honestly as possible to the players, but it is such a personal moment, and I would never want to step on anyone's toes in that area, because I try and make it as clear as possible for those that might be listening who aren't in any sport. You don't come back to it. That part of your life is finished, and that is it's a painful thing, because you've given so much to this game that you love, and for many of the women still, they've got to look at themselves, look at their lives, and decide when it's right for them to do that.
And with all that in mind, I know it's a game you'll want to win like any other, but how nice is it for Hayley and for Jess in particular to have a game at home in front of a Welsh crowd to pay their respects?
Well, this was always the plan. We didn't have a send-off game, and that was because I didn't feel like the right game was there to be played, and I didn't want to force one. And I also felt like after the major tournament to schedule a friendly against a fantastic opposition at home in Cardiff, for any players that might have wanted to retire, I think that was a nice thing to know that was on the schedule or on the horizon, so they didn't have to play the last Nations League game and think, oh, is this my last time playing in Wales, or at the Euros thinking like, oh, is this my last game, so that they knew there was always going to be a home game after the tournament where they could make a decision around, was something that was important for me.
You touched on the injuries, a lot of new caps in the squad as well, some who have been in the squad, some who haven't. Quite a nice kind of passing of the torch moment, isn't it, that you've got Jess and Hayley bidding farewell, but then all these new caps just starting on their journeys.
Absolutely, and that is the beginning of a new Euro cycle as well. A new 4-year cycle begins, and we know that we've got this great group of young players coming through our system, that academies, but equally through our talent ID. And this will be my first friendly as the coach for Wales against Australia, which is a crazy thing after it'll be pretty much 2 years in charge to have my first friendly, and they're never friendly in terms of wanting to win, but this is the first opportunity I've had to really look at some new players.
And just finally from me, you touched on the new players there and the dual qualified players as well. I know the FAW men's and women's all age grades, they cast the net far and wide, don't they? Could you tell us a little bit more about the process of, say, somebody like Gwen Zimmerman, who's been born and raised in the US? Can you tell us about how you go about finding these players and bringing them into the system?
Gwen, I think, is a little bit different in that she came through our talent ID, and so we've done some fantastic. I say we, I had nothing to do with it. I think Oz here can take a lot of credit with his team and with talent ID. They've got, some online registration really, and they go out and get the word out to clubs around Canada, the US, Australia, just to see what dual eligible players we do have. The reality in Wales, and I was just talking to some staff up north, is a lot of Welsh players who have Welsh parents and live in Wales or born in England because of hospital location. Gwen Zimmerman is like I am, which is that I was born and brought up in Canada, but have Welsh parentage and could have qualified for Wales. That doesn't mean that you're less Welsh because you're born abroad, and so equally we have Welsh players who choose to play for other countries. That is the challenging part of the job, but also the opportunity, and we've got to make sure that Wales is front and center with all the other bigger nations, population, that players know what options there are for them, and we're seeing some of those players coming through.
Sean?
Just sort of picking up on that, with Mia Ross, obviously came through the England youth system, has plenty of caps, but obviously involved in this squad. What can you tell us about her? Because we've seen the likes of Joel, Hannah Kane come in and fit in so well into the atmosphere here. So what can you tell us about Mia?
Yeah, Mia, firstly, fantastic person. I've been in communication with Mia pretty much since I got the job. I've been watching her. I think she's got a vision and an understanding of space that has always really interested me and intrigued me. And it's a big decision to choose a nationality to play for. And so we've taken our time and had lots of good conversations. Equally, no one will come into this squad if they're not the right person for this squad. So yes, she was part of the England pathway, but there's a type of person that I know can fit in well with this Welsh team. We have to keep our Welsh heritage, our Welsh understanding strong. That connection and passion for the flag, for the badge has to be paramount. And if that person that I'm looking at doesn't have that, then I stop recruiting them. And from the beginning, Mia's been very clear that this was something she was interested in, that she felt very strongly about. And we haven't forced or pushed those conversations. It's happened quite naturally, and she then got injured. So we gave her space, and now she's back playing well, and we're really looking forward to having her for the first time in with the group.
Another name is Teagan. I think whenever you see someone who's playing for the current European champions, there's a bit of excitement naturally. So what can you tell us about her?
Yeah, another player we've been looking at for a long time. She's someone who came in with us to Portugal before going into the Euros, just to give her a taste. We've been able to do that. Again, Wales, we are a smaller nation, so we can adjust and adapt very quickly. Most of the players coming into this camp have been in with Wales before in some way or another, so the environment hopefully won't be too overwhelming for them. But Teagan's got this real exciting quality on the ball. She's starting to get some significant minutes with the Arsenal youth programs, and we think it's the right time to see her up at senior level.
And we talk about all these new faces, possible new caps, but Anna FILBEY is one who has returned to us. I think it's been about a year since she's been part of it. How nice is it to welcome her back into the fold?
Great. We do keep in contact. We watch our players. We've got a depth that we just have to nurture. We don't have unlimited players, and so we are watching as much as possible. Anna's someone we've really kept an eye on, and I think she's someone who can play across a few positions that we don't have much depth in, and equally when there's an injury, there's also an opportunity. And I think Anna's after a tough summer, I think she had an injury again, a tough summer that she's worked hard to come back from. It's a great time to see her back with the team.
Just two more from me, just on your opponents. Firstly, Australia. They come into it in a very different space to where you are, obviously preparing for an Asian Cup on home soil, and we know the talent they have. So just what kind of test would you expect from them?
What an athletic team, a superb team. You see a lot of their players playing in the WSL, playing in the US. We're a country that's just starting to scratch the surface of tier 1 teams, so like our performances against them. And so it's just another test for us against a top opposition with some big names, which I also think is important, that we keep playing against top teams with the names that my players have heard in the news, because it's very easy to sort of think that they're other than we are. They're not. They're a great opposition for us and a good test, and we need to get used to playing teams like that, so that when we show up in the future major events, the next Euros, the next World Cups, that we're not overawed by that experience.
And then on Poland, obviously another European Championship debut team. There's a bit of doubt whether Eva Pajor can play with their injury, but regardless if she plays or not, this is still a very high-quality Polish team.
Yeah, fantastic team. I'm really looking forward to this test. I think obviously also first-time debutantes at the Euros, put in big performances, a win against Denmark. For us, I think it'll be a battle. 2 different types of teams in the same window, again, is a really good test for Wales, but equally for a very young Welsh team. And I'm really looking forward to the press conference after this event, talking about how many players stepped up and took their moment, because this is what happens when we have injuries, but equally when we have these new beginnings of a 4-year cycle. If we're using the Euros, we always have these, when I say unexpected for the media, players step up, and I really look forward to seeing how many of them do it.
Sinead and then Thomas.
Hi, Rhian. I can't remember what game it was exactly, but there was a game during the last qualifying campaign where it was almost like a rallying call to fans that if you haven't seen Jess Fishlock play in the flesh, where have you been? Get to that stadium. So I'm just wondering what your message is to female but male fans as well. If they haven't had the privilege of watching Jess play, how desperate are you for them to get that ticket to go and see the Australian game?
Well, I don't have to have any veiled threats anymore. The threat is real. This is the last game, and it's one of these moments in sporting history that will be talked about. And the opportunity, it's 2:00 on a Saturday. We've done that on purpose to make sure that there are as many young people, old people, Welsh people, footballing fans in the crowd as possible, because it is a moment in history. And Jess played in Australia. I think that's another special moment for her against a team that will test us in every way. So don't miss the opportunity, because it is quite literally the last one.
Because just looking at this squad list, 2005, 2006 was when Jess played for Wales for the first time. And I think there's a generation of women, myself included. I was 10 when Jess put that shirt on for the first time. We've all sort of grown up with her. Are you expecting it to be an emotional day for her and for the fans as well?
I think it will be afterwards. And again, this of course is going to be Jess's game because she's playing, but we are also losing Kaylee Barton, another stalwart of the team. And I do think Jess is very able to compartmentalize this. This will be a game that when she steps on the field, no one wants to win more than Jess. And then afterwards, I do expect it to be quite emotional. I spoke to Jess about this, but what you don't realize when you're a player is how involved and invested your whole family is as well. We've seen a lot of interviews with Kaylee and Jess's loved ones, specifically Jess's father and mother, who have been such just amazing supports for her, and they have had the last 20 years with their lives revolving around the Welsh national team. So it is an emotional thing for Kaylee's family, for Jess's, but equally for that whole senior group that have been together for so long. This is a big moment, but we will celebrate it appropriately after the game. The game will come first. It is first and foremost a wonderful opportunity for Wales to perform in front of our fans, and then the next part of it is the celebration of two fantastic players for Wales.
You've just mentioned new beginnings. For you as the head coach, does this feel like a new beginning? Does it feel like a new chapter after a historic summer, the adventure out in Switzerland? Does this kind of feel like, okay, the next chapter's begun now?
Yeah, I guess that's the difference. It's not a new beginning. We've learned so much, and we've had challenges, we've had wonderful moments, and now we get to turn the page on that particular piece, but it's not a new beginning in that we have so much history now together that we have to bring forward with us. I do think it's a new opportunity, and not just for the new faces, but for players who maybe haven't played as many minutes under me, and who are always just chomping on the bit to just be given that chance. And it's not to put undue pressure. It's just to say, like, these are the moments that you get to step up and step forward. And that's what we need to see from our next generation of Welsh talent, is who's going to be the next person to stand up for Wales and create the next bit of history. Thank you.
Thomas, Rhian, pass mic, sorry.
Rhian, you just mentioned the next generation of players coming through. There's about 13 players with under 10 or less caps. Just how important are players like Jess going to be for those next generation coming through to see, I can get to 50, I can get to 100 caps for Wales?
Well, Jess becomes one of the lesser important players because she's leaving. But that one moment with her, to know those players will always say, like, I played with Jess Fishlock. I was on the Jess Fishlock camp. But what Jess and that group of players, those senior players, have done is created a culture for the team that will continue throughout the team, I hope forever, but definitely while I'm here, because I'm going to nurture it and protect it. We are a small nation. We're a very proud nation. That connection that every national team talks about, connection, especially on the women's side, we're the most connected. It has to be our X factor. Player for player, there'll always be more talented players when you have populations that are, quadruple, 20 times ours. But what we have is a group of players that will do anything for each other. And with this next generation coming through, they have to learn and live in the culture that Jess and her teammates have created. That's what I was talking about with Amia Ross, with these players that come in that are maybe dual pathway, dual nationality. Wales, to play for Wales is a privilege. It's an honor any time that you get that opportunity. It will never be gifted. And that is the kind of thing that Jess has created. So Jess could probably come into every camp she came in thinking, I'm probably going to start here. I'm going to get a lot of minutes. But she never did. She never cut corners. She was always the first preparing for training, always the last, annoyingly, because usually we were waiting on the bus to leave. She never skipped anything. And she set the tone. And now it's for that next group of players. It's really that middle group who've played with Jess and Kaylee for a few years now, who have to continue that culture and keep it alive for the next group coming through. And that I'm looking forward to seeing, because they get to sort of make it their own while keeping so many of those strands that are now built into our DNA of what is Wales.
And your responsibility as a coach in that, just to cultivate that. How excited are you for the role over the next few years in bringing that next era of Welsh women's football along?
Yeah, this is a really important time in Welsh football. I think we knew that making the Euros was a massive moment, but we also talked about not just wanting to be there, and we kind of were, because it was so big, and we let that moment get to us, and now it's, all right, we've done it, now what? And we all have to make that decision. So you ask about how important my role is. Part of it is I can set the boundaries, the standards, but actually the team runs culture. I can't run culture. I'm not in the room. I'm not sitting with them in every conversation. And it's to make sure that our leadership team feels like they have the space to breathe and make it their own. So I did talk about how the senior group have created something, but it's got to be theirs. That's got to come alive. And so that part I'm really looking forward to seeing as well. Like, what are we going to keep together as a group, but equally, what are they going to adjust, change, morph to make it their team now? And that will happen over some time, and there will be growing pains, but equally, as we just talked about, the next time we meet, I imagine we'll be talking about a name that we weren't expecting to be talking about, because they've managed to take the opportunity and have blown us all away.
Fantastic, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mark?
Hi, Rhian. We're a few months on from the summer, from the Euros. I was just wondering how you reflect on that whole experience now, and what the main learnings that you'll take from it going into the next campaign.
Yeah, a lot of learnings. I think it was one of those tournaments where we honestly felt like we were gonna run someone close, and we didn't. And in that way, there's a disappointment that I'm happy about. I never wanted to just go to the Euros to be the first team to do that. That wasn't what it was about. And I like that most of the players that I've spoken to have had that same feeling, that there's this frustration of like, all right, we know we had, what do we do now? How do we go forward? I think we did a really thorough review of the Euros. We hired outside technical evaluators to come in and really hold us to account, which is important. And then it's taking the positive pieces, because there were a lot from the Euros, learning from the negative, taking those two things and hit the ground in a way now that is only about opportunity and excitement, because there's a lot of new faces. There are, and it's not going to be easy, but we have learned so much now. We've tested ourselves against the best, which is what we said about our group. Everyone talks to me, oh, it's such a hard group. We knew we were going to have that group since the draw. We knew it was going to be hard. Why not go to the Euros and put ourselves up against the best and see, like, we're not ready for 3 games yet. All right, we've got work to do with fitness. 65% of my team doesn't start regularly for their clubs. We've got to be better at the FAW, supporting them, getting them in environments where they're playing. Absolutely, we had an older team compared to others. I've probably been a bit dramatic about dropping that age, but that's a piece. How do we balance that experience that is so necessary to deliver results and performances with this youth, the naiveness of youth, that can be so beneficial and against those top opposition. So much to be excited about, and really looking forward to Monday now and actually getting back with them, because it's been a long time. Thank you.
Any more questions? Wel, diolch yn fawr pawb.
Thank you. Great new chairs.
Yeah.